Thank you for giving me an opportunity.
Yes.
Shall I start?
Yes, thank you.
Hi, I'm Bhupender Jain. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I have, professionally, I have more than 20 years of experience, and mainly in the tech industry, working with large teams, managing programs and engineering team. I work with very diverse team right here in Silicon Valley. I've been a resident of Bay Area for almost 20 years. I have also quite a bit of experience working with charity, and primary around health and wellness, which is mission of this center. And we as a family volunteer a lot in similar space, right? Both myself and my wife. Then I asked myself a question: Why Rancho? Why should I, be part of this? And obviously, as I said, I looked at the mission of the Rancho, and it very well resonated with me. We are obsessed with health and wellness as a family, and sharing with our and other family members and society, right? And I'll give you a few examples about that. And also, my daughter, she's been here and she's extremely happy here from last 2+ years, and I see her here for next 8 years at least to be part of this vibrant community. And I would definitely like to get involved and be a part of improving the quality of the center. I am already very happy member, but I think we can even get to the next level, and that's one of the reason. And I want to maximize my social impact, and I was like, so those are the reason strongly resonated with me. And then why you should select me, right? As I said, I have management experience, working with the diverse people and articulating ideas, selling my ideas at the same time, collaborating. Not all the time, every way, your way will be the highway, but you have to make sure you understand what's right for the community, what is the greater good. And I have a very strong experience with that. One of the things I have done at a previous charity, which is of similar size, they have $1 million budget year, and I have started a new programs and successfully executed, like one of the largest healthcare in the center, which required working with many doctors and raising the funds for the community, and at the same time socializing the idea why healthcare is important and wellness is important, and getting the audience in the fair. That was one of the success at that. And I live very close to the center, so it's I can be more available if needed. It's like I can walk here, and I almost come every day because my daughter come here. And if not, she's not coming. I also involved with the center because of the like other families we work with. They rent this quite often for the programs like singing and stuff like that. So it's sort of a second home for me. So thank you very much. That's about me.
Okay, thank you. Do you like
Yeah,
to?
sure. So I have a few questions. So, it's okay.
That happened to me last time.
Sorry.
Technical difficulties.
So you mentioned that, I guess you work for eBay.
Yes.
So, would there be like any work commitments that you would have, so, that would detract you from like attending meetings or anything like that? Like,
Since I have already experience with working with other charity, and we had a similar pattern where every month we used to have twice a month a meeting in the evening, and I don't recollect any scenario where I had to really drop everything and go to work. I have a large team, so I use delegation to make sure that I fulfill my other commitment as well. And one of my philosophies, I don't do too many things at a time, right? So when I was on the board and the executive committee of the other nonprofit, that's the only thing I did. I mean, other than work and taking care of family. Mm-hmm. And now I'm not there, so I have sort of created a capacity to do something else. So with that, I'm able to balance my priorities.
and so did you know that you were paying for this center with your property tax?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Okay.
What?
Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
Did someone ask you to join the board? Because I've never seen you here before until last week.
No.
And I noticed
Mm-hmm.
that all your comments were directed to Steve, Mary, and Kevin. and you never once looked at me while you were speaking. And I was a little disturbed by that. And I also, you mentioned family, being part of the Rancho family several times. We're not a family, we're a nonprofit business, okay? And one of the problems we've had here is there's too much crossover between management and the board. And I'm a little concerned that you might not be as objective as you need to be, because that's what we need here. We need objectivity from management and board, and that hasn't been happening. And it's not right. And it's why the community is upset, and it's why
It's time
it
for
hasn't
him to
been,
speak.
it hasn't been
Yeah.
widely, there's no outreach, okay? So those are my concerns.
Thank you for raising the concern. And sorry, maybe it's the positioning. I was trying to cover the entire ground, so I was moving my hair quite a lot. So I'm really sorry you felt that way, because I was like, Kevin is on one side and Steve on the other side. I was trying to sort of making sure that, I look at everyone. And regarding, listening to the community, as I said earlier, that I have similar experience. I work with a non-profit of similar size, and listening to the community, voice of the community, and making sure I collaborate with the board and executive committee to maximize the social impact and make a faster decision.
Did somebody ask you to join the board?
Nobody
Okay,
asked.
how did you come up with this all of a sudden?
No, so as I said, right, I was doing something else, and I sort of,
But you've never been to any of the meetings.
No, but I've been watching on website. I come here at the center every day, so I'm aware. But yes, I attended last week because now I thought that I have some time. It's a good time to get involved. But I volunteer. I volunteer in a lot of other events. I come for the family potluck and a lot of other things. So yeah, I have not come to that meetings, but I've been part of this center.
I actually have one more question.
Well, can we let him have one, because we're running out of our
Okay.
time, and I won't.
Make it quick. Same question I asked the other person. Since the board requires you to work together with other people, you said in your statement that you're used to working in teams of at least even larger than the team we have in the summer. And so when you're working in your teams trying to make a decision, what's your approach to convincing other people that we should go in this direction versus that direction? What's your style?
First, I want one of my styles. I want to understand. I understand the people on the team, like how they make a decision, what they like, what they don't like. I try to sell the benefits of it. And it's not, as I said, right, my way is not only highway, but if you come back with the better points, the idea you have, maybe we'll collaborate and work on that. But articulating the idea and what's its benefit, that's my style.
Okay, so what you just said, to make sure I understand right, is somebody presents an idea and it looks good until somebody else has, in the discussion, comes up with maybe a modification for that. And then you go, oh, then let's work together and meld those together.
Absolutely.
So you're used to collaborative working
Yes.
together like boards are supposed to.
Absolutely.
In your previous volunteer and work, it sounds like.
That's
I
right.
can see from your statement that it looks like you'd have a lot to teach our manager on how to work with the large groups we have in summer,
That's
based
right.
on your experience working with even larger groups.
Yep, that's right. Thank you.
All right.
I have a question, thank you. So, one of the things you mentioned was to work on big projects like increasing the youth participation in the swimming program. How exactly would you do that?
So one of the things is creating a social awareness, and the second thing is like if we improve the performance of let's say the student who are participating and they are winning the awards or they're going to the next level, they talk about the school, right? It's become sort of social and viral. But one way to do is to make sure that we got a good teachers and education for the teachers, right? If you educate the teacher, they will educate the kids very well. So that's my style. And that's what I'm gonna sort of propose that, hey, what can we do to make sure that we have very good teachers first, and then we have program to educate them.
Half a minute left. And this was another question. I think you answered, I asked about your what your interactions with the pool, and you talked about, what you've done in, so I think you covered my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Is
Thank you
there
for the
anybody else?
opportunity.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so now we have, Verinder.
Verinda Kumar.
Hi.
Okay,
Yeah, first
so
of all, thank you for having me here. So just to give you a background about myself, right? I've been living in this community for almost 12 years. And I live very close to this place, right? Just back of this Rancho facility, right? So first few years, actually, I have no idea this particular community does exist actually. And first I thought this community, particular district is part of this particular community only. This town, single family home.
The Barrington Bridge development. right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but one day I just came in and I found actually this community is not only for this particular neighborhood, but it is mainly for the whole Rancho and Canada area. So I have a lot of experience here actually. I think Kevin knows about me. I used to come a lot because my wife used to run a school here. Okay. So the reason I want to be here, right? I did notice in the last few meetings, and I do feel even while in the last few years back when I used to come on a daily basis, I think there's a lot of trust, mistrust between the community as well as the board members. And one of the reasons could be because, as other candidate mentioned, most of the people in this neighborhood, they don't know even that this particular community or district belongs to them actually. It's not a profit center. A lot of people, I think, they still believe that this is like some kind of profit center where people just go and learn swimming, right? Just like any other swimming center. So I do believe that we definitely need a more awareness to our to community, people who are paying the taxes here for this particular district. I also believe, I think we need to have the right set of members who are managing these facilities, right? Again, I'm not saying the member we have now, they are not the right set of people, but I do believe we do definitely need to have the right talent here to manage, and so that we can enhance this program or enhance the district, right? While managing the revenue or the cost of the district. But what quality I have, right? I've been working as a manager or a director in the tech industry. I've been managing a team of 100 plus people, right? I have my MBA, so I do know how finance works, how marketing works, how sales works. I do know more or less how most of the business works. I know this is not a business, this is a non-profit organization, but at the end, right? We are running a business here, no matter whether we believe it or not, right? We are running a business, right? So I do have the experience in each and every. Okay.
you want to, just wrap it up then?
No, it's
Okay.
yeah.
Or we can work that in with the questions if you want.
Sure. Yeah. So what I do have all kind of skills that is needed, and also as I mentioned earlier, right, I do live close by. So if any of the GM or any of the board members need us, I can be here to attend the meetings on time. I do. The last few meetings I did attend, but again, in the past I was never attending these meetings. But I do have a goal of being attending each and every meeting.
Okay.
So I have a question. So you said you just stumbled upon this place, just walking and,
Correct.
okay. How long ago was that?
That may be around 7-8 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for your job, I guess you said that you manage a global team of 100 plus people.
That's true.
So do you travel a lot for your job?
No, so my team is mostly based out of 3 different locations. So we run our business or our team, right, 24/7. We follow the sun model. So I don't travel a lot, yeah, but normally once or twice a year I normally travel to meet my team, and that's it. But other than that, I don't travel.
Do you want?
Sure. So when you're trying to convince 4 other people to follow your lead on an idea, what's your usual method for doing something like that? Like I've asked the other 2 candidates essentially the same question, which is nobody gets anything done on this board by themselves. We all have ideas. Usually there's 5 of us with 5 different ideas we come to a meeting with, since we don't meet outside the meeting usually. And one of us starts off the discussion by saying, let's try this. And so what's your style for trying to convince other people what direction to take? And it doesn't have to be your direction. You might decide that her direction is better.
Yeah, so that's true actually, right?
How do you do that?
Like Bhupendra last time mentioned, even in our office also, right? Not every time when I say something, everything, even my team member sometimes doesn't agree. Forget about my boss, right? I have to convince my boss. Sometimes my team and even team member do not agree with what I say, right? At the end, what you have to do is you have to list the pros and cons, right, of each suggestion or the comment, and see what is best for that organization, whether it's your team, whether this is Rancho, whether it's somebody else, right? And then just collaborate with that person, or then take that idea and modify it if needed. If the idea itself is good, just go and implement it.
And you?
I just have one comment here. You said at the end, if needed, I am not afraid to ask hard questions. So what do you mean by that?
What it mean is like it's a lot of time, right? This happened even in my office, and I'm pretty sure in any meeting it happens, right? Where you do not agree with some of the other people's comments on this, right? But again, if I feel somebody is doing unethical, illegal, and if nobody else is speaking, I will speak out. I will not just sit down and just watch and let the other people do the activities,
So you're not a go along to get along guy.
There is no point, right? As long as if somebody is doing the right thing, as Steve asked earlier, right? If somebody is doing the right thing, the idea is good, I will go with that person. But if the idea itself is not right, and if somebody is doing unethical jobs or any illegal activity, I will speak out if nobody else is speaking.
So I had another question too. So you say you have your MBA. So is your MBA specialized in finance, or is it in something else?
So my MBA is actually general MBA, but
Okay.
yeah, it's not a specialization in any. But my more focus was on the technology side.
Mm-hmm.
But again, in an MBA, you take all kind of courses like marketing, finance, all kind of courses. Yeah.
I just had to, if you had volunteer experience.
So I do have so I do participate in one of the NGOs even now, Sankrai Foundation, which is more like Indian NGOs, right? Their mission is mainly to eradicate all the blindness, right? And I do participate in their events. I do the donations. I do the volunteer work. On top of that, at my work, we do get almost 40 hours to do the social work. We can go anywhere to do the social work, and that is free, like company pay for it, right? So I do a lot of community event. We went to the food bank a couple of months back. We also did some planting in the past. So we do even I take my whole team with me, right? Mainly when it's a company, it's more like a team event for us. But Sankrai Foundation, that's not part of the team. That's I just believe in their mission, actually. That's why I do participate in that.
Can you describe what your participation is?
So my participation is more like a member. So I did again, they arrange such a big events. It's not possible to arrange the whole event with one person, right?
Yeah.
So I'm part of their committee,
Yeah.
right? So whatever the work is, I'm not a president, or I'm not taken any role, but I more like work as a volunteer. So whatever work they give us, we just do that. In some cases, we do the marketing, whether go to the just submit the flyer to the grocery stores or do whatever, arrange the food item, the food stalls, all these activities.
All right. Is that our questions? I think so. Okay, let's take a intermission. I desperately have to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Take less than 3.
All right. Okay,
Oh, thank
so
you.
we'll call the meeting back into session and asking for public comments. If someone would like to speak to the candidacy selection. Maya, why don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, come please,
Do I have to come up to the podium as well?
share with us, please.
Okay.
Oh my God, I can state your full name. Oh, yeah, please, your full name,
Yeah.
Maya, or I think you wrote it down.
Yeah, I can also say it for you
Thank
guys.
you, okay.
So I'm Maya Kapilevich. I worked at Rancho for about 7 years, and I was the old program manager. And in that time, I've had a lot of interaction with board members, and I've kind of seen firsthand the impact that board members can make on our business and our staff and our community. And there was just a few points that I wanted to address regarding Virender's candidacy, just based off of some of my experience. The first one, and probably what concerns me the most, is that his wife runs an after-school program / summer camp. And Rancho recently started their own summer camp. And to me, those are competitors. And I think that that's like a pretty blatant conflict of interest for him that we're going to be doing to better our program. There's a possibility that it will hurt his wife's program because we target the same area and the same customers and kind of similar activity structures. So that's just something that to me was kind of a flag. The other area is just that when his wife used to run the summer camp here, renting out our facility as a third party, there were just a lot of issues with that in terms of the area not being cleaned up on time despite clear rental agreements and damage to our property and just kind of a lack of respect for Rancho's programs. Every Friday, Rancho had their own Kids Night Out program, and there was a little bit of overlap in the schedules between camp and Kids Night Out, and it caused a lot of issues. So to try to alleviate that, we created kind of a plan and an agreement, and it was pretty much never followed, and they were always in here past time. And oftentimes he would be present when this transition should have been done by now, or just helping out with the camp. So knowing that he was a part of something that was run kind of poorly, in my opinion, is also concerning. And just the last point that I want to make is that kind of in everything that happened with the camp, our relationship with his wife did start to become a little bit more negative with some people and in some areas. And I just personally don't think that she has the best intentions when it comes to Rancho. And it's just, they're obviously connected. And I think that that also is a conflict of interest, just because, he's so closely connected to someone that may not always want the best for Rancho. And so to me, that's just something that I wanted to share with you guys.
So you said it's a conflict of interest because his wife has a program, but it's not run here.
It's not run here, but it could be seen as Rancho's competitor, or we could be seen as a competitor to her because it's a very similar program and we're targeting the same people. And
How is that different though from I guess, because the Oasis Swim School's here.
Yeah, but Jay didn't run for our board, and Jay, when we let him, when Oasis started, he wasn't in a position where he makes decisions about Rancho, about our programs. So that's ultimately something that the board does. So, Jay can't be like, oh, I want to cancel Rancho swim team so everyone can go to Oasis, So I think that there's a difference between working on the staff and being a member of the board, because ultimately you guys are, the top level that have the deciding power. A staff member can't start a new program or decide what gets funded. It's you guys who do that. And that's where the line is crossed, in my opinion.
It's a conflict of interest, in my opinion, but my opinion doesn't count much. So, but it is. If you got a swim school here, it's a competing business, I mean, it's a competing business.
But that's
And
irrelevant
it's a
of the
competing
board.
business.
That's another
Well, when-
question.
So she brought it up.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, but we're talking in respect to people
When-
being board members, and that school and that whole point has nothing to do with this.
Well, what
When
is
the
she talking
decision to
about?
allow
of
Jay
course?
to do
Because somebody
that
else
was
brought it
made,
up.
I wasn't here to speak my mind on that. That was a question that I had as well. Maybe this is a conflict of interest, but ultimately it was decided that it wasn't. And again, there's a difference between a staff member and a member of the board. It's clearly stated in the presentation from earlier, the impact that you guys have and the things that only you guys can do. And it's just a conflict of interest to decide maybe, what the camp needs more funding. We want to vote on that, and he is the swing vote. Okay, this camp getting more funding and improving, it can hurt a source of his income and something that's very important to his family. And I'm not saying what he will and won't do, but I just can't disregard the fact that it's just a clear conflict of interest.
Okay. And
Any other questions?
Which candidate?
So does Kenny have the option to say anything or not?
should get an option to speak back.
Yeah, I think so too.
okay, well, he can be part of public comment
Yep.
if you want. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your input.
Okay, if you want to be.
Yeah, sure. I can, I think we have been talking about a conflict of interest for our last few meetings. So, right, even the swim team that we had earlier, right, here, and the swim school that is run. To me, that is a more kind of competition. Like again, role of board member is totally different than what I'm doing on my personal business. It has nothing to do because, and again, what you guys are doing at a camp, it has what we do or my wife does. There's no competition except that the kids might be the same, right? But you guys are running a swim camp, we are running a STEAM camps. You guys have nothing to related to the STEAM at all, right? We are more focused on the science and technologies, and you guys are more focused on swim. So I'm not sure how it is a conflict of interest for all of you guys. And the second point about the relationship, right, as Maya talked about right? Again, to me, first of all, that is past, right? It has been more than now 3-4 years, maybe. And the second is, again, if you know that, any relationship can go bad. It's not just one-way street,
Okay,
right?
thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Well, I was gonna just make one comment, but I think now I'll make two, because I want to caution you that part of what was said in that last comment was purely hearsay. Just saying. But my concern is, I think all three are very qualified. I am a little concerned about Mr. Jane, just because when you look at all of what are your top 3 priorities, all of them have something about the community in there except for him. He is talking about youth participation in the swimming program, following the bylaws, okay, improving performance of the swim team. Now, we learned at the last meeting from Kevin's data that only 23% of the swim team was Rancho residents. And since most of the comments coming from the residents have been, we need to increase programs for the residents and recreation for the residents and community events for the residents, I think that's a little it's a little single-minded. And I hope that you will find somebody that really cares about the community and making this a community center. Because when I found out what was here and what we could do and that we had some input, I mean, like, I'm jealous of you guys get a lot of stuff going as a community volunteer. And that has to be the impetus, because the more community members that you have coming, the better off the whole thing's gonna be. It'll be more healthy. About the conflict of interest, I, for one, think that there should be no renting of this hall or these facilities for money-making operations of any kind. Because I am convinced that if one of the daycare kids here happened to get out that door that doesn't have an alarm on it and happen to get in the pool, it wouldn't matter the insurance these people had. They could sue the district. They could probably sue you unless you guys are all protected. And that's a question that all the board members and the candidates should be asking. Does the insurance of this place cover us personally against lawsuits brought by people where things happen? And maybe you know the answer. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm
Hello.
Emily Wernick. I'm a staff member here, and I've been a member of this community since I was about 12.
I am raising some concerns about Mr. Kumar's candidacy. I kind of want to echo Maya's point and also bring up the fact that we have multiple staff members here who have had uncomfortable and frankly negative experiences dealing with him and his family. And this isn't from 4 years ago. A lot of these were from this summer. One of our employees did write a report that you have all been given, or Kevin has to give to you. And it's just concerning that they would like to run for this board once we have finally kind of removed them from Rancho. And there are multiple employees who are working here currently and will be working here over the summer who will feel uncomfortable with him on the board and might quit. And these are people who are in our management over the summer, work office year round, run our swim team, teach our lessons. And that would be like an overall very negative impact for Rancho as a whole. Thank you.
Okay.
Just want to pass it up. The board should get a copy of that. The board should get a copy.
So does this particular complaint has a person's name and address? I just want to know.
Name. Yeah.
Can you stand up so we can hear you?
Sorry.
And if possible, I would like to see that.
This is-
Yes, it'll be read into the record because it's, the board's considering it's a public document at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we gonna read this or?
Okay. Yeah, for,
You probably shouldn't.
It's a public comment.
So you don't have to read it, but
well, they won't hear it. I mean, they won't know it. Okay. This comment starts with, on July 27th, 2018, I was finishing up my senior lifeguard shift at the Rancho pool and was preparing to lock up the facility and clock everyone out. However, I was unable to do so as Miss Hemika Mohan was keeping her summer camp children on the grass area. Due to not being able to leave with patrons still on the pool deck, a coworker and I went to ask Miss Mohan to relocate her camp so that we would be able to clock out. However, she repeatedly refused to comply and grew increasingly agitated when we insisted that she needed to leave. At one point, she said that she would, quote, contact the board of directors, unquote, possibly implying to jeopardize our jobs at Rancho. She can also be quoted to have said, quote, she is going to get fired, directed at my coworker. With this in mind, I am hesitant to elect her spouse, Varinder Kumar, to a position on the board of directors. In my eyes, Ms. Mohan has demonstrated a willingness to abuse her connections to power, and I'm not confident that someone so personally connected to her will perform favorably for the community of Rancho Rinconada Parks and Recreation if he were to be elected. Signed by Shangping Wang on the 27th of February this year.
Which is yesterday, right?
Yes, it would be.
Okay, can I ask one question?
I
In my candidacy, right, I haven't mentioned anywhere in the world that I am a husband of Hemika Mohan. How does this person know that I'm husband of Hemika Mohan?
Well, she said she worked here, and you also implied
No,
that you had been here a lot.
How does that person know that I have filed the candidacy here? Huh?
There's a notice, our staff sees everything,
Yeah, but how do they know that Varinder Kumar is husband of Hemika Mohan?
because you've been here.
It's a big setup.
But I would never be-
We walked in tonight, we didn't know who the candidates were. So
Yeah.
how did somebody know that filed that letter?
No, this has been posted online and on our notice board, which is right outside.
You have 72 hours in advance.
72 hours.
This is another setup.
So wait,
Yeah.
this is, I'm
It's a
confused,
setup.
so this is February.
So that-
Exactly
that's
what it
correct.
is.
No, it's
Yeah.
been a public record for
No,
the
this
past
is-
72
There is no
hours.
public record where it does say that
Right.
Varinder Kumar is husband of Hemika Mohan.
Well,
Right.
How
I
does this
don't-
person
people-
know?
I don't know.
Oh, but this wasn't on the
Can
agenda.
I ask a question?
No,
I mean-
it is, it's on,
Why were the lifeguards closing up the pool?
Yeah, really.
on Fridays.
That shouldn't happen.
Yeah, it
They're
does.
18.
But
I know some of them. They should not be the ones closing up the pool.
So
They come here and swim when nobody's around.
from 3 to 4 p.m., there's a small gap on Fridays in the summer.
Shouldn't
And so-
be, shouldn't be. Gotta
Is
be
there
one
any
of
other
those.
public-
So they're closing up the pool
This isn't
for an hour.
really relevant to
before
our
the
meeting
seminar.
at this point.
The facility, they're just locking all the bathrooms and the
Yeah.
stage are here. There's someone in all of this.
This is
We
a
need
setup.
to,
And they're all.
okay, we're back.
As a candidate, I'm just concerned how much private information goes to all the staff members here. It's not about me, I'm talking in general, right? why don't that's what this particular business is not running properly. That is why you need a person who can, ask hard questions to all of you guys,
Exactly.
what we are doing here.
It's a setup.
Okay. So, anybody else? Or
I was just gonna say, everybody's really brave to come and run for the board.
I'll second that.
they all get medals, yeah. All right,
I think all of you guys deserve a Twix.
You guys
How's that? Not bad.
after the meeting, you can have your Twix. Okay, so we're going to pass these out, and according to our selection criteria, okay, we're gonna write our selections on our 3x5s and pass them to Nancy.
get
who-
one?
I
Yeah,
gave
that's
her
true.
one.
Okay.
So
So we're,
because there are 3 candidates, what's the procedure?
so we're gonna follow step 3. If you guys look at the selection process, if there are more than 3 candidates, the board will rank.
Where it says 3 or more.
If there are 3 or more candidates, the board will rank at least 1, but not more than 3 separate candidates. The points will be awarded in the following way. First choice is 3 points, second choice is 2 points, third choice is 1 point. All applicants with no points are disqualified. If there is a single first place winner, disqualify all the other candidates, go to step 1. If the 2 are tied for first place, disqualify all other candidates, go to step 2. And if 3 are tied, then go to step 3. But I guess maybe.
So was this in the bylaws?
No, this was approved.
That's what we
We
approved.
voted on
Okay.
this last
All
time.
right.
You were here.
So it's just supposed to be a clear process and how it's supposed to happen. So ideally, we'll end up with 1 candidate at the end of this, at which point a board member could make a motion to appoint them.
Okay.
Okay, so if you'd like to register your votes.
So basically, you're doing like gold, silver, and bronze here.
Yeah, it was,
Okay.
it was just, it was just
Gotcha.
supposed to be a way to
Yeah.
make sure there's 1 candidate,
Right.
hopefully.
Okay, so you wanna pass them to Nancy?
I don't know that they're confidential. I think
Oh,
it's-
no, but then you can
We
read them out
just
all
do
at
it.
once at the end.
Oh, I'm not.
But
Sorry.
I think usually the public, well, all right, it was.
Oh, you put your name on it, right?
No,
Yeah, you need to put it-
They need to
Alright.
know.
we gotta put our names on there.
Yeah, the public's entitled to know how you're voting. Yep. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna write down everyone's. John.
You lost something.
John.
So there's first, second, and third.
Okay, so,
What are the votes? Because I have to record them.
yeah, so, Sophia, number one is, Ms. Mandavali, Anu Mandavali. Number two is Verinder Kumar, and number three is, I'm gonna mispronounce that. Bhupinder John, is that how you say it? Okay, so that's 3, 2, and 1 points for, in that order. Ms. Yeaton, Sandra Yeaton, Board Member Yeaton is, Anu is for 3 points, and Verinder Kumar for 2 points. Miriam was 3 points for John, Mr. John. And Stephen was
Mr. John.
Mr. John? Yeah.
Oh,
Jan.
Jan, oh, I knew I was gonna, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. And Stephen had 1 candidate, first place was Mr. Jan. So looks like that Mr. Jan is the high vote getter with 7. And so if we have that's a single first place winner.
Single first place.
Do y'all understand how that came to be?
No.
Okay, so.
I'll make a motion to
Okay, yes,
appoint Mr. Jane
Mr.
to
Jan.
the open board position because he got the requisite number of votes.
All right, so, okay, so this person got 3, Miriam.
Yes, Miriam gave him 3.
Okay,
Stephen gave him 3. You gave him 1.
yeah,
And so that's 7.
okay.
Oh, I see. So,
Okay. Is there a second?
Can we have the, I think I'm misstating one of the votes.
Okay.
Maybe
Miriam,
Sarah's votes.
Miriam voted for 1 candidate, Mr. Jane, for 3 points.
Are they allowed to do that? Is that part of the?
Yes.
I see.
And Stephen also had voted 1 candidate, Mr. Jane.
Okay.
Sandra voted for 2 candidates. Number 1 was Anu. Number 2 was Verinder, Mr. Kanar. So that's 3 for you and 2 for you. And then Sophia did, Ms. Mandavali was first with 3 points. Mr. Kumar was number 2nd for 2 points. And Mr. Jane was number 3 for 1 point. So that's 7 points,
Which carries the vote.
which carries the vote. And
Which
so
is-
it says on the rules that you all agreed upon, if there's a single first place winner, if you go to step
Congratulations, guys.
1,
You did
you
it
say
again.
is the board may choose to make a motion to appoint this candidate. So,
So I made a motion and it's waiting for a second, I believe,
Okay, I'll second.
to appoint Mr. Jane.
So we can vote on this?
Do we have to vote?
Yes. Well, we have a motion and a second. So motion to appoint the candidate.
Right, the candidate with the highest number of vote count, which is 7 for Mr. Jane.
You
May I
got
make a
7
comment?
votes?
7 points.
7 points, that's the system that you all agreed upon.
The system that we agreed upon at our last meeting is
Really?
clearly won.
So does the system allow for 2 people not voting? Only for 1 person? The system allows for 2 people voting for only 1 person?
It does, it
Right.
states that the
But-
board will rank at least 1, but not more than 3 separate candidates.
I'm having Mr. Jain is in because it adds to diversity of the vote, but this system is clearly open to very easy manipulation because these 2 candidates could have, I'm not saying they have, because I have no way of knowing, they could have discussed ahead of time, that's what they're going to do. How can they vote for just 1 candidate when only 3,
They're
sorry,
all-
they're 10?
Ms. Yeaton voted for 2 candidates. There's no requirement
That's
to
the
vote
problem.
for, there's no requirement to vote for.
Can you explain
No,
to me
I
how those
understand that's
points
the system
work?
is, I'm just saying
Right here.
system is
Why don't you
not a
read
good
it?
system.
So
Why don't you
there's
read
a
it to
motion,
me,
there's a-
Kelly?
I
I
don't
don't
need
read
to.
so well.
Well, then, why are you here?
It's ridiculous.
Can you explain to me how these points work
Oh.
and who made them up?
so this was part of the staff recommendation from the last
We
meeting.
voted.
It's ranked choice voting,
The
just like
board-
they do in San
Staff
Francisco.
recommendation, which
The
would be
board
those 2 back
approved it.
there, right?
And
So basically, you pick
Wow.
someone who only came to 1 meeting, literally. and who's never participated in anything of the.
You know what?
This is.
But
If she got 2 votes, he got 2 votes.
No, we didn't know.
He got 2 votes.
It's written down there.
Who got, how'd he get 2
Okay,
votes?
I'm calling the question.
So, Sophie, you voted for him too?
I gave him 1 point, so.
Oh, okay, well, if you voted for him,
I
then,
mean-
you know,
Okay,
I guess he got 3 votes.
And let it.
move on, so we can have some real meetings.
Can we
Okay,
have one
I'm
name?
calling the question. All in favor of Mr. J?
I don't know the check.
If you don't want to vote.
I know, we don't have to
I'm
vote through it.
confused.
How many people says the silent lead is win, right? There's no-
Okay, it's amazing what stuff goes on
The
here.
process says they have to,
Unbelievable.
so they don't have to agree.
It's always there, it's going to be deadlocked.
Okay, so all against? Okay,
Okay,
so
I
one-
guess.
Okay,
Our
so now,
votes don't count.
no,
You're
it's up to the
against?
county.
Okay.
I don't know what's going.
So there, well, so
Three
so
candidates.
you're not, you're not
Okay,
going to have
calling
a-
for,
So to be,
I don't understand.
to be very clear,
Responsibility for this absolute
this means that the
dysfunctional
county
board.
will be
You are responsible
appointing
for it.
someone
There's no
instead
other
of
way
this
around
board. Just,
Seriously, could only find one candidate out
Yeah.
of 3, and did you not talk to him about this before?
Okay,
No.
I'm gonna make a
I
motion.
mean, I have, no
It's the
one
first
has
part
got
of the
so
meeting.
dysfunctional.
We have a motion
And
to
this is
adjourn.
one
I'm
other
making a
example.
motion to adjourn.
So wait.
It is, did not make a decision. What a waste
Yeah,
of
I'll
everyone's
second
time.
Okay, all in
If-
favor of adjourning?
Wait,
uh,
wait.
You voting
So-
too?
no, I'm explaining something. So,
I maybe you gotta vote somehow.
No.
This is a bad system.
Yeah, there is.
That's
The
based on
full board
vote by
votes.
everyone. How do you
It's a
get it started
system.
before?
It's a rigged system, Paul.
How do you get it started before? A good system
So-
needs to control for that.
However, you voted
This
to
system
agree
did
to
not.
the system at the
The
last
county can
meeting,
do it.
as did Sophie. It was
I
unanimous
voted
to
for
pick
2
this system.
people.
No,
I voted
it
for
was
2 people.
unanimous to use this system in the last meeting.
Yeah, I know. I didn't understand it. You know, it's so convoluted, all this, that's a bunch of crap too.
Did you read it at all?
You know what?
Did you read it
And
at
you,
all?
and
Did you
you,
look at it?
let's get together with her and everything is hunky-dory. And I'm tired of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I'm gonna take
Take a 5-minute, we're gonna take a 5-minute break and we can take a 5-minute break. How about that? We'll come back, we'll have, we'll vote, we'll
This
vote.
is their defense lawyer.
so
Okay.
She doesn't represent,
This is
She
not
represents the
something-
board as a whole.
no,
She doesn't represent
No,
us
she
individually.
doesn't.
Making planning against everybody else.
so,
She should recuse
It's
herself.
not a good system.
we're just gonna take a quick break. Just to be clear.
Okay, we're gonna take a 2-minute break.
If a candidate.
Meeting's back in order. You wanna call the meeting back in
Okay,
order?
meeting back in order. What are we doing?
I think you're gonna.
Meeting's called to order.
I was going to call for the vote again.
Call for a vote. I think it's,
Is there a motion for a vote?
I move
So-
to approve,
approved.
approve
Mr. Jain.
Mr. Jain to the 5th board seat because he got the majority of votes.
Okay, I'll second that.
Discussion. That was basically the procedure we agreed to. The only part of the procedure we haven't done yet is as a majority of a board to approve the person who was selected.
So how many members do we need for that?
Three,
Okay.
and we have 3.
If you want to honor your vote.
I mean, because you voted for him 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so stressed out right now.
But if we don't make a decision by, what's the date? It'll be taken out of our hands.
March 11th?
Yeah.
Who do they appoint?
You don't know.
Whoever they
You
want.
don't know.
They can pick anybody,
From the pool of what?
They can pick
Anybody.
anybody.
anywhere.
Anybody.
Is that left?
Who qualifies.
No,
What did you say?
that
Sorry.
is the Board of Supervisors.
Oh, no, make the decision tonight.
Yeah.
You talk about the board of suits being so, you want to keep local control here.
Yeah,
I like that idea because I'm pretty sure if we can't agree, they're going to take us away. And it's up to you. LAFCO's going to send us down the
Well,
tube, so you can,
LAFCO
we can't manage ourselves.
Actually,
They
LAFCO can't
will.
do it. The city of Cupertino would have to petition to have it changed, and that's gonna take a while anyway. In the meantime, we have a swimming season coming up, and we could use a full board to do things like approve minutes.
Board stuff done.
You know, you do board stuff that needs to be done so that we're not closed for the summer and really disappoint, you know, our entire community. So we need a fifth board member, and it's clear that one person got 7 votes. The nearest person got 3, I believe. Nancy?
Six.
How many?
Six.
Oh, okay. So somebody got 6. Okay. So there was a clear majority. And according to the procedure that the full board approved at the last meeting, that's what we do is if somebody won, and obviously Mr. Jane has won, as a board, we move to appoint him to forestall having the board of supervisors appoint whoever they want, whether they live in the neighborhood or not.
Yeah, Mr. Sidanian is our county
Yes.
board of supervisors.
And he would be the one
That's
making the
fine, But
recommendation.
I would just assume, being a resident of Rancho,
Yes.
that we try to keep the control as local as possible. Because the county is after the pool board as much as possible, as is Cupertino. And I'm not ready to let this pool board be taken, not the board.
The pool.
The
Recreation center.
I'm not ready for the facility to be surrendered to the county because God knows what they would do.
Every time I've approached the city about this, they've said this is such a special.
They don't, you know what
thing.
happened?
They
The
don't wanna
money's
take
not
over.
guaranteed. There's the 3 entities,
Offer community programs in your classes.
not here.
No, it could go to
If
the
you look
state.
at LAFCO's statement, it says the board,
I would, as a resident,
well.
I'm urging you to make the decision tonight and then change things later as
Right.
you see fit. So please see.
But meanwhile, we can conduct business and keep the place going.
Yeah.
That's the reason for needing a fifth board member, because obviously we're tied in other ways, in some other manners that we need to do.
So what is the deal here? Somebody's refusing not to vote Mr. Jane in?
yeah,
He was just
basically.
elected. in my
Yeah,
mind.
but there
So
has to be a
We
motion.
need to do our due duty here, board members. You were elected by the district. I voted for many of you, and I would assume that you seat a duly elected board member. I see that as the course I just see that as due course as your responsibility. I'm not making any criticisms.
No.
I'm just saying that as I see as a resident of Rancho who voted for people who are now on this board, that we do, some of you are new members to this board, and I would expect you to do your due duty, bringing in another board member.
Thank you for your input. Any other input from the public?
Okay, I'm calling the question.
All right.
Motion has been asked and seconded to place Mr. Jane on the board. I'm voting for it. You're voting for it.
I'm still confused, like, what happened with Sandy?
I
She
don't know what
left.
happened with Sandy.
It's free
She
will.
left.
She can leave.
And she's not even here now, right? I mean,
Right, that's the point.
Candice lost the interest, and if she was.
She-
interested, she'd stay here.
If I understood what she said,
I'm
she
not-
left protesting, that she thought this
Went
was,
home ill.
Yeah.
so but we still have a quorum, and that's all it takes
You
is,
have a motion on the floor.
we have a motion on the floor.
Believe me, according to the Roberts Rules of Order, whatever you're following, I
Robert's
see this
Rules.
enough at the city council meetings. You have something on the floor, you need to proceed with it.
Right. So that's the question we're voting on,
And
is
we've
approving Mr.
been here
Jane.
for at least 10 or 15 minutes while you were thinking, and I'm kind of done with that. If we can vote and move on, or if you're not voting, then I'm gonna say it didn't pass, and we'll move on and let the county decide.
Sandy.
Are you done then?
Isn't 2-1 majority? We have all 3 board members.
No, she hasn't voted, so I don't know what
She
that
hasn't
means.
voted yet.
It doesn't really
No,
matter. It's not gonna be 2-1 or whatever it is because it has to be 3.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't matter how many people are here, it has to be 3.
The procedure doesn't say that.
And
Once
so-
candidate, they have to
It says,
If we're not gonna finish this one, then I'm gonna make a motion to go.
Okay.
So you're not gonna vote for him then?
So I guess it would go to the Board of Supervisors?
Yes.
yes,
It actually says on here, if none's chosen and we don't have a second meeting, so you could have another meeting and somehow revisit it.
Really? What is this? Wanna do that? Well, because we have a certain time period
I don't know
before it
what
happens.
Yeah, there's a few more times to do it. It would just be a little bit.
Then you'd have to,
I don't know why.
the whole new process, we're gonna use the same process, I mean, it doesn't.
I don't know what we're
It'd be
doing.
strange to read.
You're gonna have new candidates be able to come back, I mean, I don't know what
yeah,
what is,
we have to start over. I
Yeah.
think.
Well, we don't have 15 days to do the notice.
So Steve, does that make you want to change your vote? Vote differently, if I could start over? You're so concerned about new people coming in, why don't you pick somebody that has been at the meetings and you know?
let's just either decide when.
It doesn't have to be me, but this is so below the belt, this is shameful. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Okay,
Why?
I'm not
I
staying here
can't,
for
don't you
that.
have any concern for democracy?
Yes,
How long have you been in this board? How many years? Why do you need to
Okay.
be on the board for such many years?
So you have a vote,
Are you so indispensable?
yes or no? Let's move
I mean,
along.
really shame on both of you. I know you've done this.
Okay, so
She has,
You're
she can vote, she hasn't voted yet, so let her vote.
we're good.
she voted once
No,
before.
she didn't vote, she hasn't voted yet.
You're abstaining, Sandy? I mean, Sandy's left, obviously. That should count for something. Then my board member quits in disgust.
Good.
It's supposed to be a 5-member board and 1 member has left. Two people have obviously colluded, use the system for themselves. Why is that okay?
You would have been fine if they voted for you, that's how you're saying.
No, absolutely not. I
You want
don't,
diversity, I don't think you want diversity, you want you.
I am glad you're there.
Now, by not voting, it's going to district and they will appoint anyone outside the resident, that's what is gonna happen now.
This is a complete
Election-
perversion of the system.
It doesn't matter.
They're not residents. You know that? You don't even know that. You don't even know they're not residents. You're fine with that. You want to work with the family.
No, but you look at the current matter, you're talking random matters.
I'm not talking random matters
Right
at
now-
all.
Right now, it's all about candidates,
I
it's
am
not
not-
about them, it's about right now electing the candidate, whether you want to give it control to
But I
district.
think the board has to.
Another random person or you want,
Who do you think should be more concerned about that? If they were so concerned about
I
that,
think she went to the
they
ladies'
spend so
room.
much time. Shouldn't they pick one of them instead of giving to the, I mean, they
it's
are
a problem in
contributing.
hand, where we are
It's
right
important,
now,
right?
if you fight like that,
Some
if the
votes.
SOP doesn't vote, look at the outcome, I'm result oriented,
Yeah,
right now what is gonna happen? It's going to be a person, it's gonna against what you
You
get
don't
out.
know that, we don't know that.
We don't know
You
that.
cannot
No
re-vote now.
idea.
No,
Yeah, you
please.
cannot re-vote now.
Look, please.
Voting is already happening.
No, you didn't even know they don't live here. That's the level
Why
of
didn't
information.
you do that before?
What-
Why
why-
after you lose and then you challenge?
Why? We have been telling, you have not been here, okay? But you don't know this.
Yeah, but
You have not been here, you
that's
don't
not how
know.
election works. Yeah, that's not how election works.
Okay, so I'm sorry, so you said that what are the options? You would just have another meeting or what?
Well,
No, we don't have time,
you could, but I don't know how.
I don't think.
You could probably call the county board and ask them.
Dominion is in Cupertino City Hall right now with the Lehigh. You can go over there and ask him for.
There's.
Who?
Dominion is over in the city
Yeah.
council.
He may not
Oh,
know,
he
you might
is.
refer to staff though.
I refer to staff.
Yeah.
You have 3 candidates here, vote for that.
Keep this local.
You don't have to pick
If
me.
you want Dominion to make the decision, you can, but that's resting it out to the Board of Supervisors, and you don't know who you're gonna wind up with. You could have the mayor of San Jose appointed to the board.
No, but Jennifer, all of that secondary to the fact that there are 3 candidates here and you have 2 board members who can only pick one person. Who doesn't even know that he's not been here long enough. It's not a personal comment on you, but you didn't even know that they don't live here in this district. There's a lot you don't know what I'm saying. Just please accept that.
I don't
Maybe-
want another person who doesn't do that. That's what I'm saying. Look at the problem in hand, right now where we are.
No,
You are
that's
saying
fine.
that.
They can pick you as.
What you're saying is there are
That's not healthy.
two candidates who are not in district, and you get another candidate who is not in district. That's what you're saying, basically.
No, that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
that's what's gonna happen.
No, let's do this properly. Let's do this properly, and instead of saying, oh, somebody's gonna come, so let's push through something. Oh my goodness, I mean, you can't teach.
I mean, no matter who we pick tonight, it's for a term that ends in just under 2 years. And in 2 years, there will be 2 openings, Sandra's and the person we're picking
So you
tonight.
go
Actually, there'll be 3 openings.
Miriam as well.
3 openings, and Miriam as well.
There's
So-
3 coming up.
No,
next year.
Miriam just got elected to 4 years. I'm talking about 2
No,
years.
no,
2
it
years
was,
from now.
no, it would be Miriam, C.
Oh, Miriam,
Yeah.
yes, you're right, Miriam. I'm sorry. I was right. Sorry, I got you mixed up with Miriam. I don't know how. But anyway,
Sandy, Miriam, and then.
I'm sorry.
and the new person will be up for election
So there's-
in the next general election 2 years, 2 years from last November.
It's like a year and a half.
Year and a half by now, yeah. You have to file. So,
He's not qualified to be on board. Why doesn't that bother you?
Right now, I'm focusing problem at hand. There are too many problems. You cannot solve all problems.
The problem at hand is that part of that. You can't just say it's not a current problem.
No, but that's nothing. We are talking about the
It's
election outcome.
because people have raised those questions and they're not happy.
I still
You
don't
have to
understand.
recognize that.
I still don't understand. Because we are
No,
debating the
it's hard
outcome.
to understand in one meeting.
No, I've been in
Okay, Nancy,
If
how long are we
and make
gonna do this?
You guys can decide on this.
I mean, you guys. I already, I'm gonna shut it down like 15 minutes.
Let's meet.
She's not ready to shut it down.
We'll explain.
When she's ready to shut it down, we'll shut it down. I mean, I'm trying to be polite to her too. She's.
I've always been polite in the
I know,
meetings, you know,
exactly.
so.
So we're trying, she's asking for time to deliberate, and so
Yeah.
we can continue to deliberate.
All right, well, let me know when deliberation's done.
No, I know. I know, yes. I've just never, it's funny, in my experience, I've never been involved in it. And I don't, I'm always worried that this thing's on and capturing everything I say.
It is on. I would love to read that.
I don't know, because I don't want my comments to be here necessarily. Picks up so.
There are so many things you want
I
to
throw garbage.
I'm accepting.
In December, when you have a in-person lunch, he goes to the board chair. We can not give the no, that is a tradition. It's always done. New person
Yeah, I don't want to Yeah.
I can't explain that to you. I'm happy to meet with you afterwards and explain to you. You don't have to agree to this, Sophie. You can stop this right here. You don't have to abstain. That's you giving them what they want. Sophie, Sandy has left. Don't give them what they want. They are masters of manipulation.
I know you're trying to do your job.
She abstained, is that the same as a no-vote?
It doesn't.
Okay, that's what I checked.
Well, she abstains, there's no quorum, so it doesn't matter.
Right, that's what I thought.
So, we have swim lesson registration this weekend. For all of you watching from home,
that's true. Sign up for swim lessons,
yes.
not just for kids, also for adults.
Yep.
We've taught many adults to swim. I'm always encouraged
You
by,
have separate adult swim lessons?
It's private, so you get your own teacher.
yeah,
Cool, I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
yeah, we've taught many adults to
We're
swim.
learning a lot about these people more and more, the depths of depravity that they can descend to. Really, my goodness, there's 3 candidates here and you couldn't be bothered to vote for all 3. I mean, how manipulative can you be? Haven't you been on the board long enough? Seriously, how many years? This is not a lifetime position.
Guys, let's move on.
I'm not dead yet, so it's obviously not a lifetime
No,
position.
both of them are, I mean, On grounds of what?
I could have been on this board, would you have said that to me? I mean,
Or
it's,
you could have been then.
when
I'll tell you what, earlier I talked about that, hold on a second, one
when
second.
someone is elected, they get to serve as long as they desire. That is what democracy.
Until the next
is about.
election.
When you have never done any outreach to the community, there will be no candidates. That's exactly what's happened. It's not that people are not interested, or not capable. When you never do any outreach, and NAFCO has rebuked this special district about that you're not done outreach.
Okay.
How come the same people are running
We
again
have
and again,
the
you know about
choice.
that?
You have to work with the district for that.
Do you want the pool board to go to Cupertino or be
Yeah.
released to the county?
That
Or
actually
we
might not
may-
be, that might not be a bad
You
idea.
don't know this, but we may own this property.
Right.
The residents of Rancho may own this piece of property.
Okay, so.
And I'm not willing to give it to Cupertino unless they pay $16 million for it. And I'm not willing to let it go to the county unless they pay us $16 million, because Cupertino will not buy us a park. This is our park.
Okay,
But the
so.
management isn't offering recreation.
Yeah,
services.
but if they don't
You're not
vote,
getting anything anyway.
if they don't vote, Cupertino takes it, we have nothing.
That's not true.
If they don't
That's
vote,
not true.
the county takes it, we have nothing.
That's
If
not,
they don't
that's an
vote,
argument based on fear, let's not go there.
I'm going there. At this point, I do not want, I was at the city council meeting the last 2 weeks. Tuesday night, this pool board came up. And the city is trying to seize the property
You know, I'm not getting
But
anything
what
from
right
this.
do they have to see the property?
because they want to
They
take
can't
the
seize
pool.
it.
So
You cannot seize
I mean,
it.
if city has,
actually,
they will do that anyway.
LAFCO
no matter
outlined a
what.
few
No,
ways
they
to
have
do
to pay us $16 million.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a few ways to do it,
I don't
but they
think
can't.
it's.
They won't
They
buy
can, there's a
many
few ways to
park
do it.
property.
They have to get signatures from residents.
So I think LAFCO in the last service review, which I believe someone here has read, they did outline a few different options for dissolving the district or making it a subsidiary district of either the city or the county. There's a few options. It can happen. And there's no guarantee that the money stays local either. So if that were to happen, then
We get nothing.
we don't know. We don't know.
That is true, right? I mean, most of the local communities pay
And I am
taxes, and
bringing
they're not
this up
getting
in
anything.
oral communications at the city council meeting next Tuesday. I would recommend that people go there and start talking about it.
What is that?
Jennifer, the point is, what are we getting by living in this area? Nothing, you're only paying taxes. You're only, you
Yeah,
are the paying
But
taxes.
you may get $50,000 of that 16 million if the property belongs to us.
Sorry,
It doesn't belong to us.
No,
When
we
you
are not getting anything. We are not getting anything right
We
now.
don't
So I don't mind if it goes.
We don't know who owns the 2 acres, and the property is evaluated at $16 million.
No, but who's gonna get the money? We're not gonna get it.
No, they're not.
How is it gonna get to us?
We don't know that for sure.
No, no.
I want my $50,000.
You think it's 50, you have your bank account?
They're
No,
prorated based on how much everybody's profit was when they bought it.
no, it's one
Then I should get more.
property. It's
When I
one,
got
so,
this year back.
but believe me, I don't want Park and Rec Department to take this property for their pool.
No, but I'm not getting anything from this right now. I'm talking nothing.
But we also
I got
have no
it.
parks in Rancho.
I think it's
And
time
she
to
can go afterwards too. She can go afterwards too.
No?
What, what,
Well,
what?
then I recommend
have to
everybody
Who
go
is sleeping here?
and start talking at the city council.
I mean, there are a lot of ifs and buts, right? I mean, what can go wrong, what, you never know, it can go wrong, it can go. in the
Well, the
right-
city
right
won't
side.
buy us any parks for our neighborhood. We have one Sterling Park,
Yeah.
and that's all.
Yeah, my house is just in front of that park.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you have access to the park.
They went in after all my kids were grown.
Yeah, even I.
Has a nice park too.
I like that park.
Yeah.
They don't-
The minute
Oh,
kids
it's
are
very small
that's
park.
what they buy.
Just,
Because that's what they want.
Buy their trucks.
Oh.
Few lots.
Oh, on the city.
I wouldn't know.
And it took us 15 years to get the city to do it.
And
And
they,
now they're not buying Lawrence City.
I don't know what
Wait, they're not buying Lawrence
that
City?
area.
That's the latest I heard is that the water district is having
You just need to
a
register one vote and then it's
That's
out
what
of
they
here.
bought earlier, from Saturday, because that.
They did buy it. But anyway, so that's what I'm saying.
That's the other property between the expressway.
Yeah,
Mhm,
believe
yeah.
me,
Yeah.
it's, yeah, I would rather the pool Ford stayed here.
Why didn't you run?
Yeah, why don't you run,
Maybe I
Jennifer?
shouldn't be talking about that.
You should run.
In 2 years, she can. A year and a half.
Yeah.
It's not even 2 years, it's like a year and a half.
Yeah.
It's pretty
So
close.
anyway, that's it.
So,
Submitting is over at the city council chambers. If you want him to make the decision, maybe that's the best thing. I don't know.
So the downside of that just being that it shows that the Rancho board can't necessarily manage itself. But either way, in the short term, 5 members, business will move forward.
I don't care what you think, okay?
So what is the end time
You
for
don't have to
this?
review.
There is no end time?
As soon as we're done with this, then that's it. We're done.
No, no, what if
All
we
right,
are not-
I'm gonna vote no.
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I adjourn the meeting at, my watch says
We need a
1:30.
second.
No, we need a
and then we
second.
have a
You
vote.
can't- You can't act alone. No board member can.
Okay.
But I will second your motion to adjourn.
Okay, calling for the question. All in favor?
All right, so what's the next step now?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Just